have we seen the beginning of Dark Dolo?
These are the same people that like fried ravioli?
Yes. We're going to rank the 4 worst signings in LAFC history just for fun. Hello and welcome to Happy Foot, Sad Foot, your LAFC gateway drug and the only LAFC podcast that's basically 3 dumb bitches telling each other exactly. I'm Travis Hellwig.
I'm Vince LaRosa.
And I'm Darren Miller. Welcome to our preview episode of LAFC's MLS match for St. Louis City.
Ooh, that's cool.
Is that why you were
on
late?
Saturday, April 27th at 4 p.m. at BMO Stadium. You can watch it on MLS Season Pass, and unfortunately, we will not have our live post-game call-in show this week, as Travis and I will be in D.C. investigating Flipgate.
We're going to get to the bottom of it. Later in the show, we'll decide the worst LAFC signings ever. And of course, we'll discuss all this week's storylines and make some bets. But first, it's time to pay the price for listening to soccer content. It's time for listener-mandated banter. Well, Darren and I are going to DC, but we're doing it for a reason that we all have to agree. Very cool.
Oh, boy.
It is. So Darren and I were in a college comedy group together in Washington, D.C. That is the oldest college comedy group. Oldest comedy group in Washington, D.C. Shut up. Shut up, you fucking loser. The improv school, Amy Poehler's punk rock. And I...
Was she in the group?
No, but we went to her.
Well, then, come on.
But we're having our 35th anniversary in D.C., so we're going down there with a bunch of alumni. But this one, because it's 35, fewer people are coming out than for 30. And Darren and I are like the 3rd and 4th oldest people going.
I was actually about to ask 35. So, like, clearly you guys weren't there for all 35 years.
Yeah, I want to be clear. Yeah, 35 years of the group's existence.
Correct.
But now the next question is, so what is it like when, like, the old dudes show up? Like,
they're there.
Are they funny?
They were there 30th,
are they weird?
And there's a couple
is
of
it
them.
like, is it awkward? What are they like?
I don't want to answer that question in case they listen, Vince.
Oh, come on.
I'll tell you offline.
Okay, actually, ask this.
I was
How
saying,
many of them watch MLS?
I don't know.
They give off some of them give off MLS vibes derogatory.
I will say, I think this is going to get even more lame. It's very cool to be part of a group that like has a history like that. And so it's just like really awesome to see people who were like, this is a thing that meant something to people long before you and long after you. So that usually stands out as part of the experience more so than like the show being any good.
I will say the show is almost always bad at the alumni show, right? Like, because none of us have performed in forever.
Yeah, we're all just like, I guess we'll do this. We haven't done this in forever, but it's fun. Everyone just like bombs and has a great time.
Darren and I are doing an improvised podcast though, which feels like cheating because we do an improvised podcast every week.
It doesn't feel like it feels like cheating. We decided to cheat. It's not like, oh, this feels like cheating. It's like,
yeah, we're cheating.
We're cheating.
Are there any famous people that we would know that have come? Do you call them alumni?
Are they, Vince? Oh, are there? Well, have you ever heard of a man who called it a bomb threat on a train by the name of TJ Miller?
Yes.
From Deadpool, who also has a rape accusation against him at the George Washington University where we attend.
So he'll be headlining this show.
So what's weird is, so he's banned from campus.
Are we cutting this part or no?
No, I don't. He's not going to listen to this. I'm more scared of the old weirdos listening to this than TJ Miller. You think TJ's going to listen to
our... TJ Miller is listening to this and has like his own form of podcast and could shout out our podcast, we wouldn't, even if it's in a derogatory way.
Okay, this is coming from me and not Darren. He has rape accusations against him, which are pretty damning. And so he's banned from campus. We were friends with him.
Now you're saying that I'm not on board with
Darren's cool with rape accusations. Darren doesn't mind. Darren doesn't mind that these accusations were
somehow I'm getting canceled now.
Weird, because he backs the blue all the time.
I will say that TJ was our friend, I think, in a way that like he was maybe like 6 years before us and would come back. And he would come back a lot, but we were like, this guy's famous. He's in Yogi Bear. It's
maybe
cool.
should have told you something.
And I do. Yeah, there was a lot of, maybe we should have thought about how often he's coming back. And also,
looking back
I remember the first time we hung out with him, he was like, and then my girlfriend made up a rape accusation. And we were like, okay, you didn't need to bring that.
I genuinely don't remember him saying that.
He brought it up at Lindy's.
Any
maybe you weren't there.
Any alumni we could celebrate?
No, me.
There's a
Hillary
lot.
Winston.
Hillary Winston. There's a lot of like writers and behind the scenes people.
He
Hillary
created
Winston,
Bad Teacher.
Okay.
She also wrote Bad Guys. Anything that starts with bad, she wrote.
Bad Guys is good.
David Angelo has written for The Daily Show for a long time.
Okay.
A lot of writers.
Thomas Slocum, you may recognize him as the lab tech from Westworld.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Didn't watch the show. But...
Oh, Emily Axford is probably the most famous one now.
Yeah.
So Emily Axford is
Whoa, that's crazy. Yeah, it's hard to... She was our group.
Emily was in the group with us. She is now maybe one of the top 3 most famous Dungeons and Dragons players in the world. Like just sold out Madison Square Garden.
Okay, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, and it's funny, like we know Emily well, so we would never be like, Emily's famous, but it's like, right, she's probably more famous than TJ at this point.
That's so funny. It's hard to think of her even in the context of like alumni, because it's just like, who are the people that are not us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess we could cut out the TJ part and just talk about the real alumni.
But leave the part where you said we can cut out the TJ part, so people wonder who TJ is.
Maybe I should just bleep certain things.
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. Well, it is like, it's well documented that he fucking called it a bomb threat on a train, right? So like,
I don't really.
If he's banned from campus, then he's banned from campus. I mean, that's a legit thing.
Yeah. But what's weird is that he's headlining in DC this weekend. And so part of me is like, is he going to commit a mass shooting at this alumni event? Like, what is? Well, it's the first thing I thought of.
It's awkward enough that he shows up at all.
Well, he can't. His show's during it. He'd have to miss the show. And if you're going to miss a paid gig, you're going to do a mass shooting.
Oh, my God, Travis.
What's upsetting
about that? You're the only one who operates under that
rules.
rubric.
No, those are the rules. I'm pretty sure.
You think he would miss a paid gig? Things aren't going well for him.
Yeah, I don't know.
Darren made a short film with him, so he's uncomfortable because Darren still wants it to get big.
Darren, are you actually are you thinking about going to the show?
To his show?
Yeah.
No.
I'm so excited to see how much of this makes it in.
Stay tuned.
Emily Axford also has been on this podcast, I think.
Has she?
No, maybe. Yeah,
No,
I think a very early. No, she came to a game with me.
She came to
and
a
then
few
was like,
games,
I
but
don't
then
want to
didn't
be
go
on
there.
the podcast, right?
There have been a few times where she's like, I am
smart move.
I'm constantly. This is my time to not be on a podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, if you are one of Travis's famous friends, go to as many games as you can until he forces you to be on the podcast, and then just stop going.
Sometimes people come and then it's too late and I can't get them press credentials, and I have to be like, can't get you back there, boys. Sorry. I don't want them to know I've asked other people before them that have turned me down.
Fair.
What are you doing this weekend, Vince?
I'll probably still go to the game, even though we're not going to do the post game. Maybe I'll even sit in on the in the old stomping grounds, go to the press conference after. Maybe ask a question.
If you could ask a question as a Happy Foot Sad Foot correspondent, that would be unbelievable.
Oh, like what is a happy or sad foot? I might have to run it by LAFC first so that, like,
I don't think it doesn't have to be Happy Foot Sad Foot question.
I just want you to say Vince LaRosa from Happy Foot Sad Foot and then ask a question. Like, okay. I just want you to do that.
Do they do that? Do people say like where they're from?
Well, that's what I was about to say. Can I just say I really dislike when people do that? Unless they so every once in a while there is somebody that like comes in from, let's say, like LA Times that's not the regular LA Times guy, like because LA Times is doing a different type of story. Like if you're new there and you are a reputable journalist from a reputable place, that's fine. But being like, hi, I'm so-and-so from Tommy and the Ball or whatever, I don't even know, like, don't.
But I do. Don't. I want you to. I
know you do.
Okay, how about this instead? Let's in the Discord, and you don't have to take any. Let's in the Discord crowdsource the question you'll ask.
Okay.
And we'll get a bunch of ideas, and they could be really stupid, and they could be really interesting. But I want to crowdsource your question, and we'll send you all the options, and maybe you could choose one.
It's totally fair. I will say this, guys. Already Taken is asking Sergi Palencia what his goal would be if it was a Mexican dish.
That's true.
Don't ask that. Okay, I would never step on another journalist.
That's really
question.
smart of you to tackle that now because you know you're gonna. So many people are gonna suggest that because it's such a popular question that
Vince
people love when
LaRosa,
it's asked.
Infatuation LA. What would your
Vince LaRosa, Yelp.
That's so exciting. You get to be in the press box. I've always wanted to do it, but we do this stupid fucking show after.
I know. I actually do kind of miss it. I'm actually going. So maybe selfishly, somebody might be like, "Hey, Vince, you haven't been around for a while. It's good to see you," and I can feel good about myself for like a little bit.
We should send you every post game, and then you come after and give us the roundup. Well, no, I don't. We need you. Never mind. Let's start the show.
Are we starting the show?
Yeah, unless you want me to talk about TJ Miller's rape accusations more.
No.
Oh man, we had a clean cut.
All right. Well, as the casually obsessed LAFC fan on the show, I love LAFC and I'll never miss a match, but I don't have time to stay on top of all the advanced stats, roster moves, rumors, tactics, and off-the-field drama that I can't get from just watching the matches. When all I see watching a match is ball get kicked, ball go in net, Frenchman praise heavens for ending multiple-year goal drought and or still not flipping or getting called back for offside twice. Luckily, my friends Travis, the human LAFC crazy wall, and Vince, the human LAFC sane human, are here to catch me up each week on the most important storylines that live beneath the surface of every match so we can all enjoy them so much more on a segment we call Storylines.
Darren, Vince, Dince, I come to you looking at a Google Doc that I have not proofread with the storylines for this week's match. And I think these are pretty fun ones. If I don't say so myself. If I do say so myself, these are fun ones. And that
sounds like
us...
somebody didn't proofread his Google Doc.
Oh, you better believe I did it. And it comes in the form of our first storyline of the week, which is this. Have we seen the beginning of Dark Dolo? As you know, Steve Cherundolo announced last week that he'll be stepping down from the club at the end of the year to join his family, who will be moving back to Germany this summer. This was met with some concern from fans. First, the Dolo out crowd who realized, oh God, we actually got what we wanted. What now? And then also people like me who were interested in the drama around an incentivized approach to coaching where you know the coach isn't going to be there next year. So maybe you don't have to listen to him when things go bad. But then this weekend, we saw a style of play that seemed to indicate, well, fuck it. It was fast-paced, creative, and dare I say, really, really fun to watch. This has led many to ask, have we seen the beginning of Dark Dolo? A less cautious style of high-flying play from a notoriously cautious coach who now has nothing to lose. I'm sure that will not be the case. And in the last two games, we've also seen Giroud much more involved in play and Bouanga scoring 2 goals in 2 games. Not to mention Giroud's first goal in the history of his soccer career. He finally got one. Vince, first, we haven't gotten to hear from you since the Dolo news. You're not going to get away with not talking about it. So I'd first love to hear your thoughts on the decision and what Dolo means to you as a person and a coach. And then second, I'd love to hear about your thoughts on this new style of play from LAFC, or is it even a new style of play?
Look, Steve is important to me in the regards that like I did have a chance to spend like a lot of time with them. So I think for a lot of people that maybe are hard on me, like first of all, chill out. Second, I actually did get to hang out with the dude. So like I know a little bit, maybe just a little bit more of like what he's like and how he's kind of built. I would say, yeah, I'll call it a bias. Like, because I actually understand like maybe where he's coming from. I did get the chance to have many conversations with him. Like in the way that it's interesting because the first coach was so very, Bob is Bob, and Bob is very like dogmatic, and he does things one way, and while also still being very gracious with his time, and I learned a lot from him. But like getting information out of Bob depends on Bob. Steve is very much like, hey man, I'm down to chat. Like if I got time, and so that was very different for me having to be around a coach that was much more like just kind of present and much more open. And I would say, like, I learned from him just like how soccer can be just a little different and how coaching doesn't always have to be such a way. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I think both can work in certain circumstances, but it just goes to show you there's a lot of different ways to do this. And people seem to have this idea of exactly how you should coach, whether it's oh my God, when the team's playing bad, I would love to see a coach just screaming at the guys and ripping them a new one, versus sometimes players like a coach that doesn't do shit and that protects them in the media, but in the background is probably a killer and definitely gives them shit when they do things wrong. So I learned that about Steven. Look, at the end of the day, he came in at the right time for LAFC with the right personality and the right style of management and got them over the hump and then won another trophy. And I still, to this day, and will never back down from this, getting to as many finals as they did is still an accomplishment, although not the ultimate accomplishment. I still will stand by that. I don't care if you think I'm a loser, but there was at times 29 to 30 other teams vying for that same spot, and they didn't get there. So I don't quite understand that, while still holding in my other hand the feeling of disappointment that I wish we would have won 6, 7, 8 trophies in the time that Steve was here. That's
in League's Cup, more than 30 teams, right?
right. Yeah, and that's totally possible. So that's Steve. And then
would you say I love you bye to him?
I would, but not until he's actually leaving.
Well,
Remember, he's not leaving until the end of the season.
Well, you might as well say it now.
Yeah, but I mean,
in a setting where someone could potentially
does it have, I don't have, what does it have to be
take
public?
that clip and put it somewhere else in the show.
I see what you're doing here. Yeah, see, I'll send him a text.
Almost had him.
Yeah. In that regard, it is somewhat shocking, although I think I am on record on one of our podcasts. As
got it exactly right.
Yeah, if Steve leaves, it'll be on his own terms and at the end of this season. And like, hey guys, like I said, I know the guy a little bit. I think I could kind of like understand where he's coming from. But family comes first, man. At the end of the day, and I could only imagine what it would have been like if his family wanted to be back in Germany and he decided he wanted to stay. That just sounds like the worst of worst. So I don't think it's an opportune moment, but with a lot of these things, there isn't an opportune moment. So I think we have to understand. And I'm still curious, like the rest of us, to see what coalesces around him in the rest of the season, and to see how John manages the situation, because there is a world in which things don't go well. And maybe John thinks, well, let's get a move on getting a new guy in here at a time. Let's say if it happens in the summer when there are more coaches available from all around the world. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could. So I think this is just very interesting to think that there's a lot going on, a lot of moving pieces.
And then what did you think about the style of play from Dolo now that he has nothing to lose?
I don't think it had anything to do with that. I will say this. It did, because I want to caution at it being a different style of play, because I didn't really see all that much different a style of play. I will say this, in the game, they were down by 2 goals at a point, and in that moment, you kind of have nothing to lose, down 2 goals and away from home. So maybe there is something that played into it. Maybe game state was part of it. When I rewatched the game, so I did rewatch it knowing that a lot of people were talking about kind of like a new style of play. And then Travis, you had told me that like people were talking in the Discord about Giroud specifically. So I went back and watched the first half again, and specifically watched before the Portland goal. So at 0-0, which to me is a game state in which we can actually kind of look at if things are different. And there were some differences, and I wouldn't say they're necessarily stylistic. They're more tactical. And I think in that game, and so we have to now watch, if you want to see if this is a style change, watch what I'm telling you and see if it continues to happen through more games. Then we can call it a style change versus tactics. But in that game, 2 tactics that I saw that were prevalent were the movement of Bouanga off of Giroud. Giroud was definitely very much involved in it, and I think that was on purpose, because Giroud was not just getting the ball passed to him more, he was actively seeking out the ball in deeper areas. If you rewatch the beginning of that game, he was positioning himself much deeper, almost to the point where he was almost in line with Tillman and Delgado, who are actually much more aggressive. So they pushed their 8s a little higher. They had Giroud come in, and I think that was to surround the 2 central midfielders of Portland and to cause them trouble. And then Bouanga and Ordaz, to a certain extent, were really keyed in on, if the ball goes into an area in front of Portland's defensive line, just run. Just start running. Giroud will either find you or the 8s will find you. And I think that first goal was onside. I think that was a great movement. And I think that Bouanga was really reading the situation well. And I would say that aside from his goal and then his goals being called off, I really enjoyed watching Bouanga play in a way in which he was willing to run for the team, even if he wasn't going to receive the ball. And it made him more dangerous. So I would like to see that from him stylistically. So I think those are the 2 major things. And if Giroud starts again and we see him continuing to kind of drop almost in. Darren, do you remember what a number 9 that comes short?
A false 9?
Oh my God, he's done it. We've done it, baby.
We're back.
End the show. The show's over. We figured it
The
out.
false 9 move?
Yeah, if he's playing it kind of in that way, then I think we can say that that's actually a kind of a more of a stylistic change. But those are the biggest things. And then I think, yeah, they threw a little bit of caution to the wind where guys were flooding forward. But I think maybe that had to do with game state. And also Portland didn't really care for the ball. They wanted to actually counterattack, and they were pretty effective. I would say that like, they created some big chances off their counterattack. We had some moments where we were able to stop some bigger chances. Like I wouldn't say LAFC was all bad in their transition defense, but it was like 50-50. So it was rough at times.
Darren, let's just say that Vince didn't just destroy the premise of my first storyline. And I just want to continue with the phrase Dark Dolo because I like it. Now that Dark Dolo has proven that he's ready to take risks, anything new and or different or strange you want to see from Steve Cherundolo now that he's Breaking Bad?
Oh, yeah. This is fun. Let's see. Hooglery sweeper keeper. What else?
Maybe a leather jacket?
Oh, well, yeah. Fashion.
But like a biker jacket.
Leather jacket is good. I love the idea of embodying specifically YOLO in the fashion.
Oh, yeah. Yolo Dolo is what you call it.
YOLO Dolo is what I think it is.
That's
but
so much
I
better
like
than Dark Dolo.
No, I think they're two different things. And I think we're addressing two different things that are both happening.
Well, Dark Dolo gets a red card in that game. That's
exactly.
Dolo.
Yeah, they're both at play. I think him wearing sunglasses would be fun.
Yeah. At night.
Let's just cut to the chase and get Hollingshead up at forward.
Hollingshead hit a fucking rocket in that game.
Yeah, he almost won.
He
almost won it for us. All right.
I got more. Should we keep going?
Safe.
I was thinking like maybe he could have like a gun. Like he just keeps it on him. Like you're legally allowed to have a gun. He should just have a gun. He's not going to shoot anyone.
Would you want to like a side holster?
Open carry.
Would you want it just
carry?
like in the back of his waistband?
Tucked in the back of his waistband.
No, you want the back, like you know how it's like a like a big shotgun that like hangs on your back.
Oh, Jesus.
What about if he had like a Travis Bickle?
Yeah, like a Terminator situation.
A Travis Bickle like arm thing.
Like contraption.
All right, just some ideas for you to ask about at the press conference.
Yeah.
Yep. Write them down.
And
what's
that
your favorite
brings us
Yolo Dolo move?
To our second storyline of the week, which, just happened to fall into our laps today. And it's this. Who the fuck are our new midfielders? At the buzzer today, John Thorrington signed 2 fresh, piping hot new midfielders for LAFC. First, on loan from Toluca, Frankie Amaya, who is currently in Liga MX. He's a 24-year-old American midfielder who's played both for Red Bull New York and Cincinnati. And second, Ryan Raposo, a 26-year-old who played his entire career in Vancouver, but is currently a free agent and so is being signed on a free. We've talked a good amount about our midfield struggles this year and how inconsistent we've seemed. Vince, what can you tell us about Amaya and Raposo and what these signings might mean for the club and any players currently in our midfield? Frankie
Amaya is a really good player, and I like this signing because he does make the team better, and he's of the level where he can start right away if you need him to. I think the midfield's pretty settled. It's going to be hard to displace any of those 3 guys, but Amaya has at least the talent level where you would say, like, I could see him doing it. And so that means that when he does come into the games, that let's say he's not a starter right away, like you're going to feel good about him being in the game. And honestly, one of the things that stuck out in that Portland game and why I thought LAFC was good at times was like Tillman looked really fresh. Delgado looked pretty fresh. So I think they're understanding that a lot of games slowed these guys down and slowed down their effectiveness, and they need to get them some rest. So I think ultimately that's really the best thing, is just being able to rotate guys and have a guy that is not depth level, like he's starter level rotation. So that's really good. Raposo's interesting. I don't know how much he's going to play midfield, because the most I've seen him play lately is as a wing back or even a fullback. He can play midfielder. Ostensibly, he started as a midfielder, but in Vancouver, he was used a lot as a wing back on either side or a fullback. So I don't know if he's going to play midfield, but that's all to say, like, I like it because he can be versatile. Because I think if we're talking about guys that need a rest, like Sergi Palencia and Ryan Hollingshead, they're going to need rest of time. And we have yeah, we haven't been super keen on Yao Yaboa or Artem Smolikov. So
now that we have a couple other guys who are scoring goals.
yeah, so I think both moves are smart. Obviously, a little higher on the Maya one just because he has a pedigree, and then he's a local kid, a guy that like LAFC's wanted for a while. So clearly, he's a guy that fits the system and fits their DNA in the way that they want to play. But you get two guys that can play in this league, and so I think that's the biggest thing that we were talking about in terms of depth. Like depth, what do we get from these people? What do we know? Do we know what to expect? And now you got guys that I think you know what to expect. And I think they can actually win you some games too.
Darren, Frankie Amaya goes by Frankie. Who's the most famous Frankie or Frank you could think of?
There's Frankie Muniz.
Yeah, I can't think of another
race car
Frankie.
driver.
You can't think of somebody with that. Wait, Frankie specifically or Frank?
I guess we could open it up to Frank, but
No,
Frankie is
yeah,
Frankie's.
I was gonna say
You
once
can't
you
open it up to Frank.
there's a lot. I mean,
That's just
Sinatra-
his name.
It's Frank. Who's the most famous Frank?
Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't seem like a Frank.
Yeah,
Frank
that's true.
Geary. Frank Lloyd Wright.
Frank Lloyd Wright's up there.
Frankenstein.
Oh, you can't beat Frankenstein, honestly. And his
Yeah,
monster.
Franklin Roosevelt.
Yeah, that counts. That counts.
Yeah.
We'll get to the bottom of this.
I used to call him, I called him Frankie Roosevelt back when we were in school together.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
He's going to be at the reunion, actually. And that brings us to our third storyline of the week, and the important one coming into this match. Why is St. Louis City struggling just so much? They sit back in 12th in the West with 9 points on the season, and over the first 9 games, they have 2 wins, 3 draws, and 4 losses. They have not won a game since March 15th, which I want to remind you is over a month ago. In comparison, we are 7th in the West on 13 points, which isn't that much more, but still feels like a lot more with 4 wins, 4 losses. And we finally got our first draw, boys. We did it. They said it was impossible. After ending 2023 first in the West in their inaugural season, St. Louis City fell out of the playoffs last year and now feel like it's more of the same. What happened to St. Louis, Vince? Why were they so good that first season and have looked like absolute dog shit since? And how do we match up against them?
They played a style that wasn't sustainable. And once it kind of got figured out, they had to find another gear and they just didn't have it. I don't think they had the players for it. Then they had some coaching changes where they were either going to like double down or find a new way to play. And they kind of just met in the middle. And so that made them even worse. Now they actually do have a coach that wants to have them play in a slightly different style, but he's very defensive. And so right now they're just kind of blunt offensively. Like they can't really do much. They don't really have much creativity. They have a bunch of guys that are runners that are kind of athletic, but they don't have anyone to get them the ball per se in the ways that the coach wants them to. I don't even know if the coach is exactly sure what he wants offensively because, and some other people have reported on this, Olaf Melberg coached a team in Sweden where they weren't very good offensively. So they were really good defensively, but not good offensively. So they're kind of getting what they paid for. I think at home, LAFC matches up well against them because even though they're solid defensively, I still think they're prone to want to come forward. And we know LAFC, as long as a team gives them a little bit of space in behind, they can wreak havoc. So I think we match up well against them. And I would expect, even though, I think Portland's a weird wild card, especially at Portland. And they have a lot of really good attacking players. LAFC should have the talent advantage. They should have the tactical advantage. They should, and then, with all this time to prepare, they should be able to prepare and put out a team that is motivated and should be able to get a result at home.
Darren, I Googled important St. Louis foods, and I feel like you're often a defender of the Midwest. You love Cleveland, you love Cincinnati. And so, Darren, everyone says you have to try St. Louis style pizza, which basically looks like a Domino's thin crust pizza, but it's covered in something called Provel cheese, which according to a website that loves it is, quote, a processed cheese loaf made specifically for the St. Louis market and comprised of white cheddar, provolone, and Swiss cheese. This blend was formulated for pizzerias in St. Louis exclusively for its amazing melting properties. Darren, have you ever had St. Louis style pizza? And what style city pizza do you think is the best?
Wow. Okay. I definitely have never had St. Louis anything.
You've never been to St. Louis?
I've never been to St. Louis.
Seems
I
like a
can't
place you
say
would
I
defend.
have
nice.
any opinion of the Midwest beyond just I love my family who lives in Cleveland.
I love my family that lives in Connecticut, and I still hate Connecticut. So it's possible
Yeah,
to hate a
I don't have a
city.
problem with Cleveland. I've had a certain version of Cleveland that I've experienced. Visiting family, which is not everyone's experience there. St. Louis, Provel cheese, for some reason, just hearing the term gave me the ick. But when you said what kind of cheeses it is, I was like, I like those cheeses. I don't know. I do think it's a little bit of a red flag when it's like, this is developed for a specific market.
Yes.
Like, you know that anytime there's a specific...
Like everyone else passed. But
Yeah.
they love it.
Here's the people that love this. So there's something weird about those people, I think.
I also don't like that they call it a cheese loaf, right?
Yeah,
Like, we
hate
should be
that.
calling it a block of
Definitely
cheese.
hate that.
Yeah.
Or a
The other
chunk
frame of
cheese.
reference that I have is that these are the same people that like fried ravioli.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't.
So I don't know. This is not a market
Fried
as
ravioli
they
seems
called
like it
it.
could be good, right? Like fried ravioli, I
Yeah, but
understand. And I
Now
do
we're
like
talking about a
Domino's
pattern,
thin crust
Travis.
pizza.
We're building a list of things that are like, okay, I guess this could be good.
Yes,
How many things
why?
go on that list before you're like, what's going on here?
Right. It's like, are you playing God? Like, why are you creating things? You don't need to create new things. Other places have made good things and you can enjoy those things. You don't need your own way, St. Louis.
There's just it's like this food is the kind of stuff that it's like, oh, did you try that like ridiculous, fun, silly food on the Vegas Strip?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's in St. Louis.
With both items, it's like, well, pizza's fine. They're like, no, but we need to make it our pizza. Okay.
That's true.
And,
There
like,
is absolutely
ravioli's
nothing
fine.
wrong with pizza or ravioli.
Yeah, so like, just it's okay. It's okay to just
Yeah.
eat it in their form. Maybe just stuff it a little bit differently with the ravioli.
Well,
But come on,
you know what? It does track. That is, I will say, a Midwest thing to be searching for an identity.
That's fair.
I wonder, like, if the cheese took off because, like, they made it locally and they just kind of like knew him and liked him. And they're like, we got to help this Provel guy out with his cheese.
Right?
Hey, it's our special local pizza with the shitty cheese.
I think it's one of those things too where it went beyond that, where they were like, and then one day he'll be famous because everyone loves Provel cheese, and then they'll know that it came from right here in St. Louis. And then
Yeah.
like they look back 100 years later, they're like, so that didn't work out, but we'll still
Yeah.
eat it. We bought a ton of it, so we
Worked
better
out
get rid of
to
it.
an
It goes
extent.
bad.
Yeah.
That's why the city bought so much Provel cheese in the 80s and is still going through the
There's just
original
warehouses.
stockpile.
Yeah. They just made too much. That's all. Darren, in one word or one city, what's the best city style pizza?
I guess it's hard to beat New York.
Nope, it's New
you want-
Haven.
I
Thank
want
you so
You
much
want me to
for
say New
answering.
Haven? New Haven is great. From the place that you said that you don't like, even though
We have two things in Connecticut, and it's New Haven style pizza and UConn women's basketball, and I will defend those two things, and I will defend nothing else from the state of Connecticut.
Would you say that New Haven
that
style pizza is
checks
better
out.
than New York pizza?
New Haven style pizza at its best is better than New York style pizza at its best. I would say the average
Really?
New York pizza is better than the average New Haven pizza. But the best version of both, New Haven blows it out of the water.
Blows it out of the water,
Blows it out of the
Travis?
water, not even close, and I'll fight Alexis Guerrero.
Actually, the way that you describe New York pizza is the way I describe it to people also, because people are always like, "What makes it so good?" I go, "It's good." Like, and when it's really good, like they're probably the best pizza may come from New York. But at the end of the day, the best part about New York is if you just walk across the street and you see a sign that says pizza, just eat it and just get a slice. And
the worst slice
guaranteed
of
it
pizza
will be
you'll
good.
have, the worst
Right.
slice of pizza you'll have in New York City is probably one of the best you'll have in most cities.
Right.
And like the average slice of pizza in New York is great, but the best pizza I've ever had, the 2 or 3 best pizzas I've ever had are in New Haven, and I lived in New York for a long time.
Wow.
Happy's number one.
I
Sally's
do
number
love
2.
New Haven style pizza, and I will at least say best New Haven pizza beats average New York pizza. That's as far as I can go right now.
If you're interested in New Haven style pizza, I think an interesting take on New Haven style pizza is happening in North Hollywood right now at Ozzy's Beats.
Agreed.
It's not exactly New Haven style pizza, but fan of the show, Dave Portnoy, did say it's the best pizza in Los Angeles. So something to consider. When we come back.
Once again, we're brought to you by the Barstool Network.
Barstool Network. Barstool Black and Gold. Barstool Falconer. Barstool downtown Los Angeles. When we come back, we're going to rank the 4 worst signings in LAFC history just for fun.
And we're back. All right, the first transfer window is officially closed as of tonight, so we thought the best way to put the recent big ticket bust of Giroud and big ticket miss of Griezmann in context is to just nominate the list of LAFC's worst signings of all time.
So
we'll see how they go.
We haven't fully talked about how this is going to go. Here's how I'm imagining it. You tell me what you're thinking. We're not going to do a Mount Rushmore each like we did for the best. I think what we should do is we should build a Mount Rushmore for the 3 of us, where we just sort of throw names out there and discuss it and see if we think they deserve to be on there. Like, let's just make it a fluid discussion. How's that sound?
Yes.
I mean, there are no bad signings. Let's all be fair. They're all good boys. Very
He's
good
carrying
boys.
water for the team again. It's not just Yolo. My favorite theory I heard we could talk about. No, we'll save this for not talking about.
Save it for another time.
Okay, go ahead, Vince.
I was just going to say I just want to pretend it. Like, there are a variety of reasons why signings don't work out, and they're not always the player's fault. I will defend that. Like, sometimes
a bad signing is not a bad player. We're not ranking the 4 worst players in LAFC history.
And
that's
also,
important.
Yeah, and also, like, some plans just don't work out. Like,
right.
Come on. It mystifies me that people think this is binary. Like, you just got it wrong, you should all be fired, or that guy's never good again and should never play anywhere again. When we've actually seen guys that don't play well for LAFC go elsewhere and thrive.
I saw someone comment on the Instagram account of LAFC, or maybe it was the Reddit after the signings today, where it was like, unimpressed. And it's like, you didn't know who this fucking person was, man. Like, you just thought it was going to be Gio Reyna for some fucking reason. What are you talking about?
With Dortmund, even though they don't want him fighting for their lives to even get into Europe, they're like, oh yeah, you just fucking take him. Like, who cares? And also, I saw a lot of people saying that too. It just shows your ignorance of the league that you claim to like.
Yes, because he was a great player in this league.
Yeah, and Ryan Raposo played over 100 games for Vancouver. Like, come on.
I have a pitch for the Mount Rushmore, and I think we'll all agree on this one.
Sure. Andre
Horta, the 3rd designated player in LAFC's history.
The Teddy Roosevelt of our.
Yes, exactly. Here's Andre Horta came in with a lot of buzz. So I remember seeing a lot of jerseys for him. I think I'm looking at the table that Darren put here, cost $5.7 million our first season. And the one thing everyone can remember about Andre Horta is coming into the game late in the second El Trafico, where we were up 2-0, and kicking a back pass in his first pass that led to the tying goal, and never recovering after that. I don't think it gets any fucking worse than that. He might have done other things, but if you were to ask your average LAFC fan what Andre Horta did for the team, they will say 1 back pass.
I know. And what people do forget, and look, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter because they didn't win, but he thumped the shit out of the post from like 25 yards out right at
later in that game.
Yeah, right at the very end of that game. So like, it could have been very different for him. But he was like, I don't know if we've used this term at all, but he was a luxury player. Like, he's a guy that, like, if you're already a very good team and all the rest of the team is hammering and they're doing great, like, he can play. But if things go slightly wrong, which he was in LAFC's first season where things were going to go wrong and they were going to actually have to look at him and go like, hey, could you carry us in this game? He was absolutely not going to be able to do that. Just did not have the wherewithal, did not seem to have the kind of mentality or just focus in general. Like, the dude could do some really pretty things on the ball. But if it wasn't kind of about him or for him, nowhere to be found.
Yeah. It's I think it's just one of those things where his name will go down in legend with the club as someone we'd like to forget, even though that doesn't mean anything about him as a person, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think there's a few people on this list that you could categorize as like they have become punchlines in the lore of the team.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be an interesting place to start. I'm seeing on this list Brian Rodriguez and Stipe Buke. Those are candidates, I think.
I was waiting for someone to say Brian Rodriguez, and I will not it's no.
I think at the time, Brian Rodriguez was incredibly frustrating. I think in hindsight, after signing someone like Mario Gonzalez, or even like Brian Rodriguez scored a good amount of goals for us. And
yep.
But the reason we disliked him is he felt like the way Bouanga felt at the beginning of the season.
The reason we disliked him is because he looked like a douche.
Yes, he also looked like a bad.
That's a great point.
A lot of people just you look at him and you just go, I don't like that guy, and I can't argue with you.
But I do think he had a lot in common with Bouanga, but Bouanga was able to finish.
Right.
And
if he scores goals, then you're like, that guy's not a douche. He's just he's a badass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, there's like a number of guys who have become punchlines by being compared to Brian Rodriguez, but then in hindsight, it's like, no, they were actually worse.
I would love Brian Rodriguez.
Just not as big ticket. Yeah. I think what the reason why he's a candidate, I don't know if I would put him up there, but the reason why he's a candidate is because I think he was good both before and after playing for LAFC.
Yeah,
I agree.
Well,
so it's like that's the distinction of bad signing versus bad player.
He is like another person on that list of like big signings that some people might put on this list. Kike Oliveira, like he is the mirror. Like we put all of our whatever our like hatred, we put it into them, even though like it has nothing to do with them. We're like,
I love Kike. I don't know what people are talking about.
But some people hate him. Some people will hate him, and they maybe have really what they think are really good reasons to, but it has almost nothing to do with them actually playing on the field.
I guess I just see
it's like a mirror again. They just look in it and they just like, it's like all of the bad things in them they have put on this player, and a lot of times it had nothing to do with what they actually did.
Well, what do you think from the perspective of like what we invested in these guys versus what they put out on the field?
I mean, here's the thing. There's not a science. Like this idea that you buy a player and you get 2 times the amount back. Like it sounds grand and everything. And I would say that LAFC,
I don't care about how they left the team. I just care about like what we paid in transfer fee and what we paid them while they were here suggests how much we might expect them to, how well we might expect them to play, and what the stakes are for what the expectations are from the front office to the player.
I mean,
who delivered the worst on that promise? You
might, and I would say that generally speaking, if the player does well, that the return on investment will be bigger. But there is a world in which you buy a player and really it's just an asset. And like we might look at them and go like, they're not performing for us, they're not scoring enough goals for us, we're not getting the return on the investment in terms of like championships or goals on the field. But if they're still like physically impressive and LAFC puts them in the shop window, like, and they won't really admit to this, although they kind of have said like, we're a selling team, this is what we want to do. Like they're happy with it. And now
don't they look bad in the shop window if they're not playing particularly well?
Well, it depends on what you consider not playing particularly well. I think all of us as the layperson generally consider, just goals and assists, but there are a lot of scouts and talent people around the world that are like, oh, that guy's raw. Like we could just use that guy. Like they look at it the same way that LAFC does, where like they can make them better. And so I think some of these guys, like we wanted performance from guys that were projects. That were just raw talent. And so LAFC got what they wanted out of it by being able to move them along and kind of proof of concept that they're a team that can find from less fancy teams or less fancy places, players that have value to teams in bigger places. But that doesn't mean, to your point, Darren, that like they returned on the on-field investment per se.
There's no return on the field or off the field.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They're not always one and the same. And so I know that frustrates people. Like I get why that frustrates people because they're not always
one or the other.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. They did get money back for some of these guys. Like
so then those people maybe don't need to be on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, no, I don't think they're on the bad list, but I'm just saying like I understand why you might hate these players, but they're not always like it doesn't line up exactly with being a bad signing.
I have a pitch that we haven't said yet, and I think could be an interesting person to put up here. Christian Teo. Christian Teo came in very highly regarded middle of the season where we won MLS Cup. And the only thing I can tell you about Christian Teo is that he took the first PK and he missed. That's all I know about Christian Teo. And like was he a designated player? Wasn't he like a temporary designated player or something? I don't remember.
I think no, he was like really high TAM, and I think if he was gonna stay, he was gonna be a designated player, and that's why they were like, "Well, we're not staying on that contract, but we'd like you to stay." And he's like, "Okay, I'm going to Saudi Arabia or wherever he went." I think it was. But
a Barcelona guy comes in. I think he was at a different team. I think when he came in, but we knew him as a Barcelona guy.
Yep.
Came in with a lot of promise, and all he did was miss the PK in the MLS Cup.
I mean, I have one that is absolutely on the list.
Okay, tell us.
This is a slam dunk. Kenneth Vermeer.
Yeah, Kenneth Vermeer. I loved him. I was so excited when we signed him.
So was I. I was like, oh, it's like a cool Dutch guy. And like, he was really cool. Actually, was like really cool to talk to. And like, he had like just this air of like, nothing phases me. I don't care about anything. And guess what? He didn't care about anything. That was a problem. Like he didn't care about stopping goals from going in the back of the net. That's a problem. I don't know what it is. Like but the thing was like, I kind of respect it because he kind of let off the air like, hey, nothing phases me. I'm just here to, and like, he really was like, I got paid. They gave me a good amount of money. I get to come to LA and like, I'll figure it out. Like, but he was not good. I
think that's fair.
Okay. I think we've got one we all agree on.
Okay. So that's two. So we have Horta. Kenneth Vermeer. And then I think let's talk about one more, and then let's talk about the elephant in the room last. So what do we think is the third definite non-Olivier Giroud slot?
Spoiler alert.
Well, there's probably people screaming at their radios. Talk about Olivier.
I mean, it's interesting to look at what the transfer. Sorry, go ahead.
Vince just said a name that I was about to say. If you want to say it again, Vince.
Mario Gonzalez, a man that, by the way, is still technically owned by
on
LAFC.
The roster. And complicates things with these two signings this week because I believe we are now over the 20 allotted roster spots. So somebody's on their way out unless we got rid of Mario Gonzalez and they haven't announced it yet.
If he's on loan, I don't know if he technically takes up a roster spot.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe I'm wrong.
So they punted on that issue.
And the fact that they keep finding new destinations for him makes me think, like, as much as people, to your point, Travis, it could complicate things if all of a sudden the place is like, absolutely not, we don't want him. Then, like, one, they do have buyouts, so they could do that. But it could complicate things because, like, they do still own him. So, like, there is a world in which a team's like, no, but the fact that they still keep finding places for him to go makes me think that, one, they're certain he's not ever going to be on this team again. And he also is certain he has nothing to do with this team again. So like they're both finding, whether through his agent or him or some kind of intermediaries, they're always finding somewhere to put him. And he's always accepting it. Like he doesn't have to say yes to these things.
Yeah.
And he is. So it makes me think like, I think we're going to be okay here, but there is a world in which things could get really weird.
I think the reason this is such a bad signing, one, he was dog shit for us, but the length of the contract and the fact that we're still dealing with this motherfucker.
Yeah.
who I think scored one goal for us.
Yeah. And the promise of him was specifically like, this guy's going to finish.
Yeah.
Like that's what we were told when they signed him.
I hate to say this, like looking at his like highlight reels and tapes, like it looked like he was a guy that did fit LAFC. Well, we're going to talk about the other guy, but I think some of the things that like maybe we like faulted Mario for, or some of the things that we're seeing that's like Olivier is not fitting.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Cause
how do we feel about
echoes of the same issues?
How do we feel about Mario for spot 3?
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay. So let's talk
I think it's a better, the other person I was going to suggest was Stipe Butte just because of the transfer fee.
It is a big number. It was what, 8.5 according to this thing you put on.
8.5 million euro.
Stipe, in hindsight, scored a decent amount of goals for us, right? Like we were pretty upset with him.
He was young also.
Yeah,
I think the expectations that were not to the level that are warranted for Gonzalez.
I think the amount we paid for Stipe made everyone think he was going to come in and be a world beater. And he just wasn't yet. But he, in hindsight, wasn't as bad as this podcast specifically made him out to be.
Yeah, that was more of a running joke on our show. Also, the higher price tag makes sense because he was still young when we got rid of him, so he still had potential for someone else.
If you were to say,
if he had stayed another year, I would not have been upset. I actually kind of thought that what I saw from him, it wasn't good enough. In the terms of like what you would expect from a player that you would thought was the finished product. But again, going back to kind of like the projects, I saw enough that was a good player. But when he left, it made me think, and again, we talk about this, like he didn't want to be here. Like he wanted to go back to Europe, and the team found a way for him to go back, because if he's not feeling it and he's still got a lot of work to do, like you can't have that player here. So I'm like you guys. I'm like, I kind of like cringe at saying like he was a bad signing. Like I get that people want him to be better in it. Look, I think a lot of it comes down to this. You hear the word golden boy and you're like, oh, great.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of people
also,
understand.
It was just genuinely funny to see how consistently he had like great chances that he somehow flubbed.
I mean, not as bad as some guys.
The same way it became funny with Giroud. Like, that it's just like, it's just so funny that you're having trouble finishing and then you get the ball right in front of the net and you can't do it. I
would much rather have Steve Buke than Mario Gonzalez, right? Like if I put the two next to him, it's Mario is way worse. I think.
And a 20-year-old that is like missing goals that you hope that you think somebody should finish. You're also, the flip side is he's also getting on to some chances that like not 28-year-olds even get onto, right? So you hope that the finishing balances out. But again, like I said, because he went to Europe so quickly after, it seemed like he probably went to the team was like, maybe this just isn't for me. I'm far from home. I'd like to be closer to where I'm from. And the golden boy thing, I want to point out, like, almost never hits for anyone. It's like, it's a curse. Like, and they pick 40 of them. Like 40 people are on this golden boy list. It's not really super as exclusive as you think. So
yeah.
Wait, is there an actual list that someone's publishing of golden boys?
Every year there's like the golden boy list.
Oh,
it's just
I always thought that this is just like people randomly started talking about certain players that way just because it's like a thing people say. This is like a real thing?
Yeah, no, it's actual
like McDonald's
moniker.
All-American. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I had no idea. I was just like, I thought it was just like
exactly
a way to describe
like
a certain type of player.
Yeah, it's like people are like, oh, this guy in our local area, he's really good. Like, oh, well, how good is he? I don't know. Put him on the list. Like, it's not like so serious that.
Is this list being published somewhere?
It is. I think it's a newspaper that does it, and I think that they just like
it's also Michelin Tires that does.
Yeah. I think just like anyone, they understand that talent evaluation, especially. By the way, you have to be like under. I think you have to be under 20. So basically, they're putting their necks out there by being like,
"This is the 20 under 20 list."
Kinda, but by being like,
it's XXL freestyle. Yeah,
yeah. They're putting a golden boy moniker on an 18-year-old, knowing that like most 18-year-olds don't pan out.
Yeah,
so
it'll crush them.
It's not like they're totally wrong for getting it.
They should call it, when it's MLS, they should call it the Freddie Adu Golden Boy Award.
Oh,
the Freddie Adu Golden Boy curse. Okay, let's talk about Olivier Giroud. I think all of us agree that if Olivier Giroud stopped playing for LAFC tomorrow, he's on this list. But that's not the case, right? So let's talk about what puts him on this list. Is it bad enough that even if he turns it around at the end of the year, he's still on this list? Like,
is he definitely gone at the end of the year?
I can't imagine. No,
I mean,
can sign
not
him?
Definitely. I mean,
his contract's up. I guess we could re-sign him.
Yeah, and there might be like a team option.
Yeah.
Let's say he turns things around and he has a great end of the year and he's like a star for us by the end of the year. It would make sense to me if it does not make sense to try to get him to come back. So that's why I'm wondering.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where if he does turn it around, you say, well, maybe you're not a DP anymore. And if he agrees to that, then you say, okay, then we feel comfortable. But
got it.
I mean, I think the only thing kind of saving him from the list, even though he is a DP, there was no transfer fee. Yeah. You know, like I think kind of back to Darren's point, even though I kind of argued against it, but he is 38, 37, 38. Like anytime there's a transfer fee for somebody over 30, I think we're not talking about a developmental player. And that is something we can definitely criticize. Although I will say, and I'll back this up too, it's not your money. You know, it's discretionary money. It doesn't really stop the club. It doesn't have anything really to do with the cap. So like if they want to spend it, I would be happier. Like, look, I don't want all my
Is that just owner cash?
Yeah. I don't want all my players to miss, but I would be happier with a team that takes swings and misses than a team that never buys DPs. Like, I'd rather my owners be going out there and some don't work out and they're willing to pay $7-8 million and then fail and then play $7-8 million again chasing that dragon than being like a San Jose that only gets players within MLS that never.
Can you
like,
explain that a little
swing.
bit more, actually? Because I do think a lot of people think it works the same way that like the NBA works, where when you buy a player, well, you don't buy a player, right? But like whatever their salary is goes against the cap. That's still true here. Just the transfer fee that we pay does not go towards the cap, correct?
Yeah, the transfer fee gets amortized over the length of the contract. And so that's what keeps them as a DP in designation along with their salary. So you could have somebody, to be a DP, basically, essentially all you have to be doing is making more than the maximum budget charge, which now I think is about $650,000. So technically anyone above that technically would be a DP, but to a certain level, you can be bought down. I think that number now is, so if your contract plus your transfer fee is above $1.4 million on average, then you cannot be bought down. There's not enough TAM that you're allowed to use. Like, there's a limit to TAM. You can't just all of a sudden get a guy and buy him all the way down and then have more DPs. But your transfer fee just comes out of your owner's pocket. And although it's used in the designation, which again, even when Messi makes $20 million a year, he hits Miami's cap at the maximum budget charge, which is $650K. Even though he makes that, doesn't matter. Could make $100 million, could make $1 billion. Always
That's why
that.
everyone's like, how are they able to keep signing these players? And it's like, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, because you juggle the cap.
They're rich.
And so
that's how.
that's why a lot of people. That's why a lot of bargains in MLS is they want to be able to pay higher salaries because they don't want to pay it. Because again, your salary is coming out of the owner's pocket too. Even though it's hitting at a budget charge, he's paying the full amount. So if you're paying a transfer fee, normally you want to pay a lower salary, and that happens all around the world. And so that's why, again, I would say that, like, if you're taking swings, at least like you're exciting your fan base and you're trying. Like, all these are risks. There's not a single player that's not a risk, other than Messi. There's not a single player that's not a risk. So I'm hesitant to just be like, oh, I can't believe they spent all this money. It's like, yeah, but just wait till they stop spending that money.
Do you think that there's a player that we've signed that is a worse signing than Olivier Giroud? Outside of the three that we've already said.
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Because it might just be that he's the fourth, right? Like, this has been a disaster. I don't want him to be the fourth, especially because he's been playing so well.
And let's also say it's not ill-advised. Like, I don't think a lot of serious people would say that the decision shouldn't have been made.
Correct.
Right.
It's about just the outcome.
Yeah, and also LAFC's had a pretty short history, but also a pretty successful history. And most of the players they've brought in, like, they're not always bringing in Olivier Giroud level players. So he's in a very like rare category.
And Gareth Bale was TAM, right? He wasn't DP, so it doesn't feel as he was a bust, but it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, and if Gareth Bale, and if he doesn't hit that header, then we probably are talking about him on this list.
Yes, 100%.
100%.
But again, him not being a DP is helpful, right? He came in for almost no money.
But also, just to throw it out there, like, people are frustrated about this too, myself included. But like, we often carry an extra DP slot, like. So it's like, oh, he's taking up a slot, so it's a big deal. But it's like, maybe that slot would have been empty if it wasn't him.
I have an interesting pitch for you.
Where Jeff Talk might be right. Like, carrying a DP that's not participating is a detriment to the squad because you have a limited amount. I'll give him that, despite the fact that he doesn't want to pay players what they're worth.
Can I pitch a replacement for Olivier, and then if you guys don't bite, we'll go with Olivier?
Okay.
Carlos Vela returning last year.
Whoa.
Comes in, plays for like what, half of one game?
No, I would say like 8 minutes.
And I think it was 10 minutes. But
I think he played like 10 minutes.
It came to longer because there was
a lot, pretty high.
He paid like we paid him like what, $350,000?
I think it might have been more than that. Like, we paid him a good amount of money.
Well, it was like, what they were like, this is what we have left over. Do you want to come back? And he was like, sure, I'll take whatever you got.
I guess it doesn't like have a negative effect on the team overall. Like, there wasn't but in terms of like waste of fucking money. What was that?
I think in the way like it kind of tarnished the relationship and like the legacy. Like there's still a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like there's still a lot of people out there like Carlos got done dirty, and like he doesn't look like he got done dirty. He's out there having like enjoying his best life. Like but I think like
think of how much money per minute he made.
Yeah,
playing for us last season.
I know, but there's like conspiracy theorists that are like Steve just didn't like him, and like he could have played, but he didn't. It's like, don't you think that if Carlos could have played, Steve would have used him? I mean, we could have used him.
We were all saying the end of that first year he shouldn't be a DP, right? We all saying that. Carlos disagreed, and that was what happened last year. We signed him for 10 minutes. And he held the U.S. Open Cup.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because Elie, the nice guy he is like, wait a second, Carlos is here. I can't raise this in good
Carlos
conscience.
is here.
I can't be the captain in this moment in good conscience with this man here.
I like the idea of Carlos being on both Mount Rushmores.
Right?
That it. And I think if Olivier doesn't turn it around and he's gone at the end of this year, he takes this slot. But maybe for the time being, Carlos Vela 2 is the
Carlos Vela 2. It has to be specified because otherwise we're just stepping on the whole premise here.
No, it's definitely not Carlos
signing.
Vela. It is the second
we did
signing
actually sign him the second time. Like we did have to sign him. So it was a second signing. It wasn't like the Carlos Vela signing that we're judging just part of.
I don't know. That makes me kind of happy to put him on.
Yeah. And it could have been so different.
I think that he's a good seat warmer for potential future Olivier Giroud, that if Giroud turns around, then I'm happy with Vela being stuck there.
Okay. I think we landed in a good place. He's a seat warmer for now.
Yeah. And we'll see. He's not going to be there forever, but for now, he's the fourth worst signing, I think.
Not him.
Not him.
That signing.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be very easy to dislodge, but at this moment, like just with all the weirdness around it and like the kind of bad taste it leaves in your mouth after all the great things that he did, it makes
we
sense.
still don't have a part of our history post, right? It's still not.
The signing.
Are we still thinking
so bad
he might
that
be
it also
possible
means,
to play again?
That's the thing.
They won't let anyone be the number 10.
It means that we don't have a send off. We don't have any sort of closure with him as the most important player in the history of the team.
Yeah,
we thought there would be last year, and it just didn't.
The legend of Carlos Vela was completely botched by this signing.
Yeah, fumbled.
Okay, all right. So we have Horta, Vermeer, Mario Gonzalez, and Carlos Vela 2.0.
Dos.
All right, great. Those are the worst signings in LAFC history. When we come back, we're gonna make some bets.
And we're back. Now it's time for a segment called Bet It and Forget It.
Bet it and forget it.
Every week we end the show with a bet for this week's game. We make an outlandish prediction, something that almost definitely will not happen, but could. Each week we all put up $5. If no one hits, the money rolls over to the next week, and eventually by the time someone's weird prediction comes true, they might win a good chunk of change. None of our bets hit last week, so the pool for this week is now $135.
We're up there, boys. Real money. Time to start getting that money.
We're professionals.
I was so close.
You were really close.
You were
really close.
I was close.
Remains. I think there was a period of time in which we all could have.
All of our bets were on.
All right. I have a bet this week, and I'm very confident in it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And it's this. Darren and I are going to crush at this show. People are going to love how funny we are. And people are going to be like chanting our names. No.
I think that's a good bet because I don't think we're people who are incapable of
being like, we crush. Yeah, we'll be like, it could have been better.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like you said,
could crush and we won't be able to report that it happened.
Yeah, and then I'll ask you and you guys are like, it was okay.
It was
fine. Oh, you guys couldn't
really
I forgot one line.
Yeah, we can't do it.
Okay, my bet is this. Olivier Giroud hat trick.
Oh shit. Okay.
A classic.
I was going to say brace, but brace now feels not outlandish.
That was mine
enough.
last week.
And I think we got to add one to it, but no stipulations, just 3 goals by Olivier Giroud.
A really clean bet.
Okay.
I mean, maybe I want to say a hat trick by Bouanga. No, I want to say Giroud. It would be more satisfying. I feel like I've made this bet a lot in the last year and a half.
Yeah, we need somebody to like find the bet that we make most often. I mean, we know what Darren says.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's not going to be this week. Don't worry.
okay,
And we don't know. Actually, we don't know if my bet didn't hit. Something could have gone wrong with that lumberjack. We just don't know.
that's true.
There was nothing significant enough to be made public.
That's true.
I mean,
That
I
is all
do
I know.
remember in the highlights seeing when Bouanga scored. There's like a moment where you could just like the camera is across and the lumberjack's just kind of like. And I was like, that's pretty funny. Like he's just kind of like, oh man, you got to do it on my side of the field.
They should give him a big wooden chair to sit in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
Well, he
Like a
should have
log
to
cabin
carve the wooden
thing.
chair out of one of those trees.
Yeah.
And
Give him
like
a
he
stump.
can't sit until he's done.
Stoop kid's afraid to leave his stoop. Okay, go ahead.
I have one that I think it's outlandish enough. It's kind of a weird one, but LAFC will go down in the game. They will go down first, but they will win the game. And I think it's
I love
outlandish
that
because
bet.
they haven't done
That's
it in a long
outlandish.
time.
That
And
does
and
not
Talked
happen.
about it a lot. So even if
Yeah.
it's just 2-1, my bet would cash. But LAFC has to go down first and then come from behind and win the game.
It's not a draw. Yeah.
Not a draw
Okay.
like this week,
Great
which was
bet.
I think a big step. For
Not a
them. So
draw.
I'm gonna not a draw.
Not a
A
draw.
win.
We're
A
talking
win.
about win.
Yeah, we're talking about wins.
Okay, my bet is a roster complication bet.
Oh,
Both Nathan Ordaz and David Martinez will score goals.
Okay.
And both goals will happen when the other guy is not on the pitch.
That feels
Did-
more likely than if they were both on the pitch.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but I
true.
just want to make sure that it's not happening through some kind of loophole. Like the reason why it's outlandish is because they usually are a sub for one another.
Okay.
That's why I think. But
You-
if they just like both end up for whatever weird reason playing at the same time,
The extra
I
stipulations
don't want it to
you put
become
on
more
your bet
likely.
are not forced by us. But I just want to put that out there.
I know. I know. Well, because it's happened before. It's happened multiple times before that I win and then I feel weird about it because something made it less outlandish.
You know what's a more outlandish version of it? I mean, I'm fine with this bet as is, but it would be fun to do a bet where it's like Ordaz scores on a Martinez assist or Martinez scores on an Ordaz assist. Like, I could never see either of those things happen.
That seems far more.
Although I think Ordaz
I could
might have
see
scored off
Ordaz-
a Martinez assist.
No, I actually could see Ordaz scoring off of, or I could see Martinez scoring off of Ordaz more likely than the other way around.
But how likely is it that they'll play at the same time?
That's true.
It would require,
And the connection. Ooh.
I mean, you do what you want. I just thought of it. And I thought it was fun.
We'll keep that in our pockets. One of us should do that bet.
All right.
I'm gonna stick with my both of them will score somehow.
We shall see. That's our show. Our theme music is done by the insane team of James Valentine, Nate Walcott, and Louis Palmer. You can subscribe to our YouTube. And if you're watching this right now on our YouTube, hit subscribe and a thumbs up. It goes a long way at youtube.com/@happyfootsadfoot. Review us all places. And if you want to support us making the show, please head over to patreon.com/happyfootsadfoot, where you get discount on merch. You get to hang out with us in Discord, where you can tell Vince what to ask in the press room. And you can listen to all this stuff without ads, and including the video feed without ads as well, that Darren's been putting together recently too. So that's all there. Any support really goes a long way to making blah, 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 community, blah, blah, blah.
Blah 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 blah.
Wow. We'll see ya. Thanks again. And Vince will see ya at BMO, baby. Vince, anything you want to say to Steve Cherundolo?
See you at BMO.
I love you. Bye.
I love you. Bye.